What's up, my friends? Welcome to the Live Wide Open podcast. I'm your host, Randy B. Ramirez, also known as Wide Open Randy, and I'm here to serve anyone who's looking to level up from their current situation. This show is dedicated to helping raise the bar for all the motorsport enthusiasts out there, those who want more out of life, those who want to do more, those who want to be more, those who love the thrill, the joy, and the connection of what these high performance engines bring into our lives. Because holding it wide open is just what we do. Being a good freaking person is who we are, and living our lives to the fullest is the lifestyle that we choose. Man, today we're going to be talking about streetcar budgets and how they're always significantly more than you think they're going to be. Like, I've gone through this over and over again, and what I've seen is that shit adds up really quickly. I've done the math multiple times. I did it again friggin' today as I was preparing this episode, and it just surprised me how easily it all adds up, like extremely fast. And that's why when every time like I hear someone that they're starting like, oh, and they say, oh, this is how much I'm gonna do the build for, man, like I always say, like, bro, really? Bro, you need to double, or sometimes I even say you need to triple that shit, man. Like, you're way off, buddy. Because it truly does add up super fast. And so today we're gonna run through some of the rough numbers like that it would take you to build like a streetcar, something that you could probably drive around. I'd say probably, because there's never true reliability when you're building something that it's going to be 1,000 horsepower. But we're going to go through how much it actually costs to build yourself a 1,000 horsepower turbo LS that will be kind of reliable. Now I want to make this clarification. Like, we're not going to build, and I guess I just said it, but let me just make the clarification anyways, because there's always those guys like, oh, I can build the junkyard motor. And yeah, I've built junkyard motors too. And we're not going to be talking about like putting something together that's going to be just good for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 couple passes. Like, you do have those engines that they're a couple hit wonders, and they work for straight ILR race cars, like, for the track, but if you want something that you can get in, you can go make some fast passes in, you could go drive around, be your weekend cruiser, you can have AC, you can have all the comforts, you could still be fast, and you could count on that it's not gonna most of the time leave you broken down on the side of the road. This is what we're going to cover today, right? And so the costs are going to be to build something that is going to be reliable enough for you to be able to, like I said, drive around town and just and not just some trailer queen type shit. Like, we're going to talk about some street cars shit. And so I'm going to assume that to start off with, like, you don't have anything. Like, you don't have a donor car, you don't have any donor parts, and you aren't going to be paying someone to do the work for you. Like, all you have is the willingness to go at it, to learn, to research the internet, to read books, and to watch YouTube videos to see how you do things. You're going to figure it out. You're going to have the willingness to do all this, right? And I'm going to make those assumptions because that's how I started. Like, and I'm not going to include every nut and bolt. Like, I'm just going to include like the major components, and I'm going to group things together just so that we can keep this episode like relatively short, because if not, this will drag on like a lot. I have several build sheets put together in spreadsheets on my files, and we could really go into detail, and it could be really lengthy, but we're not. We're going to try to keep things to main basic components. And I'm going to show you how easily really this adds up. And so let's just say that you get yourself like an F-body, like a Camaro or a Trans Am, and typically you could get those for relatively cheap. And I'm picking those just because I have a turbo F body, I have a Camaro, I have an SS, 2002 last year they made that model. I love that car. Hopefully I'd never get rid of that. That's my baby. But so we're going to use an F body with this example, right? And so the F bodies are relatively cheap nowadays, since we're building something that's going to be like around 1,000 horsepower to the wheels. The modern transmission that they have in them, like, they don't have to, that you get, the F body that you buy, it doesn't have to be in tip-top condition, in great shape, because we're not going to be using a lot of those components. The reality is that. And so like a basic V8 F body it's probably going to run you somewhere around the neighborhood of like $7,500 if you're lucky enough to find a good deal like that. I actually looked these prices up like quickly as I was, preparing for this episode, and they're more around 10 to 15,000, right? But I'm going to assume that you're a good negotiator and you got the car for 7,500 plus. When you pull the motor and transmission out, you could sell those guys. So that will kind of offset the cost and it will compensate for the prices I currently saw online, right? So let's just stick with $7,500 for the car, so let's move on to the main components. The engine, that's kind of one of the biggest components, right? And so something that's going to handle 1,000 horsepower for at least a little while. And when I say a little while, like, depends how much you're going to drive it, depends how many passes and pulls you're going to be. For someone like me, I'm always driving my thing like on full boost all the time. Every person I give a ride in, it's like full boost. Like, I just enjoy my shit. I build it to go enjoy it. And so I know that those motors have a lifespan, and so that's why they say you got to pay to play. And so we're gonna buy ourselves a motor that is going to last us for a little while, right? And so something that is going to be able to handle those capabilities is you can get away with a stock crank, but you're definitely going to need some forged pistons and you're going to need some forged rods, right? And so a long block from Texas Speed is probably one of the most common suppliers out there, like a 6-liter deal, like a 370. Probably even you could get a 408 for that cost, but I priced a 370. Basic 6-liter pistons, rods, stock crank. It's going to be somewhere delivered to your door, on the truck freight. It's going to be somewhere around 13,000. And that's with the standard options too. Like, I'm not picking like the gangster pistons, the gangster fucking crank, like all the upgrades, the 1/2-inch studs. I don't know. We're doing like a basic, they're 6-liter, forged pistons, rods, stock crank deal, 13,000. And so engine covers and all the basic accessories, I'm going to assume that you're using all that from the stock motor that came with the car. And so we're also going to need an intake and we're going to need a throttle body. Yeah, you could use kind of the stock LS1 intake, bro. But let's throw a good intake and a decent throttle body on this, because I'm going to fab the turbo kit is going to be around that. So trust me when I say just buy the bullet right now. And so an intake and a throttle body, that's going to be around $1,000 for a decent one. Right? There's more expensive ones. There's cheaper ones. I've kind of got a mid price on this, right? You're going to need a dampener. You should get like a coolant crossover. You're going to need a catch can. You're going to need some fittings. You're going to need some spark plug wires. You're going to need some spark plugs. You're going to probably need some coils, depending how the car is. Just give it a tune-up. So that's going to be, let's say, around 1,250, right? And again, I'm going low on the cost here. But the reality is that you're probably going to have like a lot of miscellaneous fittings to buy, and crap like that. And all those little pieces, they add up fast. They really do, man. But let's just stick to the general main components here. That engine is going to need a good fuel supply for you to support that kind of power. Like, everybody says, oh yeah, 1,000 horsepower turbo less, 1,000 horsepower turbo less. They always say like it's really the easiest thing to build. And while it's just a very common thing to build, it has a lot of components that you got to throw at it for it to be reliable. And a good fuel source is one of them. And so let's just say that for injectors, you're going to need 2 fuel pumps minimally. I think 2 fuel pumps you'll definitely get away with. You're going to need some fuel lines. You're going to need some fittings. You're going to need a fuel filter. You're going to need a regulator. Pretty much all you're going to need, like the whole fuel system components to support you. 1,000 horsepower running E85. It's going to be somewhere around the neighborhood of 3,000. And I'm just ballparking this right here because it's going to be a little more, right? But let's just say 3,000. And so let's start moving towards the back of the car, the transmission. Whether you're going to go auto or stick shift, like they both have their separate components that you're going to need to buy. If you go, stick shift, you're going to need, obviously the transmission. You're going to need the clutch, the flywheel, probably, a bell housing, a slave, the shifter. So they'll all have their own components, and I've priced them both, right? And usually the stick shift one it comes out more expensive. It really does, and they seem to break a lot more often. So it comes out more expensive because you need to buy the more expensive units. So for simplicity's sake, let's say that you're going to go with the automatic. And you might not have as much as fun throwing some gears. Like, I'm a stick shift guy. I love stick shift cars. And you might not go as fast as, like I said, on the automatic, but excuse me, the stick shift, yeah, I was going the right route. I don't know, I confused myself there. The stick shift, you're gonna have a lot more fun, but it not might be as fast as the automatic. So you will go faster with the auto. So let's just go with the auto, right? So simplicity stake, it's gonna be cheaper, you're gonna go faster. So you're gonna need a flex plate, you're gonna need a torque converter, you're gonna need a built trans, um, and um, and since we're having a street car, we're talking about a street car here that we want to be able to drive, and on the weekends, and get on the highway and all that. You're gonna want to overdrive, some type of overdrive. So let's go with a built 480, and we're gonna need a shifter too, and a transcooler too, because that shit gets hot fast, especially if you're making back-to-back passes. And so all those components are gonna be around $7,800. You're gonna need a drive shaft too. That's about $350. You're gonna need the stock rear end, bro. You're gonna break that for sure. I went that route. You're gonna break that. So let's throw in a budget-friendly 9-inch in there. Right, Quick Performance seems to be really have like the good deals around there. That's like the best bang for the buck that you can get, and that's about $3,500 for a complete unit. Okay, so we have the motor, we have the fuel system, we have the transmission, we have the rear end. The shocks, man, those bad boys are gonna stay stock for now. If you wanna, you're gonna need some shocks, like some gangster shocks, if you really want to put down some power. But let's just ride with what we have for right now, just to keep costs down, right? Let's move to electronics. For budget purposes, let's run with the stock computer. Like, you can definitely make 1,000 horsepower in a stock computer. I've seen it done time and time after again. It might not be ideal, but you can make it happen. And again, we're doing this to save money, because the standalone computers, the cost adds up really quick depending on which components you buy. You're going to have the computer, you're going to have all the sensors you're going to need to get, you're going to want a dash, and you're going to need all the little bullshit that you're going to need to be able to wire that and do all that stuff and put it in your car. So, bro, that shit is easily 5,000, but we're not going to include that. We're going to do the stock computer game. Like, that's what we're going to roll with. So minimally, with doing the stock computer, you're going to need for sure, you're going to need a wideband, and you're going to want to put a fuel pressure sensor, and then you're also going to want to put a boost controller, right? And so that's about like $1,100, assuming that you don't buy the most expensive gauges out there, right? So let's move to the turbo kit. Like, we can't leave that out. The turbo kit is actually what's gonna make us the power. That's how we're gonna get to 1,000 horsepower to the wheels, right? And so a turbo kit really includes like the hot side, the cold side, the intercooler, all the couplers, the clamps, the fittings. We're gonna get a single turbo kit here. It's gonna come with the wastegates, the blow-off valves. And so, assuming that you keep things relatively budget friendly here, and I say that because they have turbos out there that are like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Like, price gets crazy with some badass units, but we're gonna go with like a very budget friendly, like $2,500 turbo here, which will still make the power. They're just a lot more heavier, but you can make it happen, right? And so for the exhaust, to keep things economical, we're gonna go with the gangster out the side of the front bumper kind of deal, because by doing that, we don't have to deal with going through the exhaust all the way back through the car and to the rear end. So it just keeps things simpler, right? And so something like that will make the power not totally kill the bank. That turbo kit is going to run you about like $9,000 to $10,000, right? So let's just say $9,000 for adding the cost here. Brakes, we're going to send it like how it is, and we're going to keep the brakes stock for now. You're going to want to upgrade the brakes later, but we're going to keep them stock for now. The wheels, I guess we're going to keep those stock too, but let's at least minimally let's throw on some drag radials in the back to help a little bit with traction, because you're going to notice that it's going to be spinning left and right nonstop at that horsepower level. So at least a set of drag radials for the back, that's like about $600. We're not going to do a roll cage. We're not going to do no race seats. We're just going to use all the stock interior parts. That shit, you will see that it's going to get fucking sketchy on you, and it's going to feel really fast. Like, a lot of people don't understand how actually fast that feels. Like 1,000 horsepower car is fucking really fast. But we're going to keep trying to keep the cost down, even though the cost is not going to be down. It's going to be way up there, but for trying to keep it as low as possible. We're not going to do no roll cage, no race seats. We're just going to keep stock interior, and we're going to keep it like that. And all right, so I was tiling this up, and shit, I noticed that I almost forgot the cooling system, right? And that's one that I actually didn't think about until it got me in traffic. Because with the whole turbo deal, what happens is that it gets really, really hot in your engine bay. So you're going to need to upgrade the cooling system. You're going to need a fucking nice, chunky radiator in the front. So let's say we could get a decent radiator for like $500. radiator plus fans and all that. Probably going to be a lot more than that for a nice gangster unit, but in these F bodies, you could put like a smaller one. You could probably find one for $500, right? And so once you do all that, you're going to need the car tuned, and a quality street kind of turbo tune, probably like $750 because you're going to have to spend a lot of time doing street pulls, doing, get all the boost settings lined up. It takes time. It's time consuming. Easily $750 to do a quality turbo street tune on that, right? And so that's pretty much all the main components that really came to my mind, right? And I actually glanced at some of my spreadsheets over the builds that I've had to make sure that I kind of hit all the main categories. And I'm sure I'm probably like gonna miss something here and there. And I know I skipped over some parts that I had on the spreadsheet, but I just wanted to really include the main components because it adds up fast. And I'm sure, like I said, there's probably things that are going to miss. And as you're building it, you're like, oh man, I need this and I need that. And all those little things, like all those little here and there things, they really add up quickly on you. But let's just run the numbers how it is. Like, let's assume that you have everything. You're not going to run into any deals, which trust me, you are, but whatever. Let's just assume that we're not. And so I'm going to recap quickly and say each number and then hit you with the final total approximate cost. And feel free to add this up as I'm going so that you can double check me if you want. Because you're going to be fucking surprised at the final cost. I know I was when I first started really pricing these things. I come from a construction background, big budget guy, spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. It's like my love language. So the minute I started doing this, I put everything in the spreadsheet and I was like, holy fuck, like it really surprises you. So go ahead and feel free to add up the costs as we're going, right? So I'm gonna just do a quick recap on this. So the car, $7,500. The long block, $13,000. The intake, the throttle body, $1,000. You have the dampener, the coolant crossover, the plugs, the wires, the coils, all the little miscellaneous bullshit, $1,250. You have the radiator, $500. You have the fuel system, $3,000. You have the transmission components, $7,800. You have the rear end and the drive shaft, $3,850. You have the basic electronics, $1,100. You have a turbo kit that's going to support you the 1,000 horsepower, $9,000. You have some drag radial, $600, and you have a custom street tune, $750. You guys ready? Like, the final cost of this quote-unquote budget-friendly 1,000 horsepower, kind of reliable build is $49,350. $50K to build something that you're going to have a blast in. Like, bro. And that's assuming that, like, you're going to do all the work yourself. That's assuming that you're not going to pay no one for labor. That's assuming that you're going at this with the YouTube university, with the internet, figuring shit out. That's how I did it. And the reality is that, like, you got to be willing to turn those wrenches because, like, look where the bill is already. Like, and plus, some of this work to build something like that, this quality, it's going to require maintenance. And so it's always best to build it yourself so that you know actually how to work on it when the time comes, because the time is going to come, right? And so to build something like this is easily going to take you from start to finish, I'd say 100 hours easily, right? And so, but let's say that you're like, man, I'm really busy. I'm not the best mechanically inclined. I really don't want to learn all this. I don't have the 100 extra hours to really put on this. It's going to take forever, blah, blah, blah. And so let's say that you find yourself like a shop that will only charge you $100 an hour for labor. And I want to put this out there because there are cheaper guys out there for sure that will do it for $100, the labor. But trust me when I tell you, let me save you the headache right now. It's not worth the hassle. A quality shop is actually going to be way more than $100 per hour. So $100 per hour is actually pretty economical in my opinion for some quality work, right? The shit that is not going to take like 2 years to build your car, right? And so let's say 100 hours times $100 an hour, that's another $10,000 easily. Cheap on labor to build this whole race car for you, right? And that's actually pretty affordable labor in my opinion. But we're gearheads here. We turn wrenches. We figure shit out. So instead of being $60K, because that's, 50 plus 10 is 60, we're just going to keep it at 50. We're going to do all the work ourselves. And $50K, bro. $50K to build 1,000 horsepower, reliably, in quotation marks, fucking badass street car that's going to go beat some street bikes. Like, you're going to be able to bully some street bikes. And that's a fucking gangster feeling because all these especially the leader bikes, the 1000s. They're always like want to pick on you when they see a fast car. They don't realize how truly 1,000 horsepower car. If you could put the fucking power down to the floor, that shit is gonna be fast, right? But it's fucking nuts is the price. Like people don't realize that it takes easily $50K to build a quality setup like this, right? And so the next time that someone tells you that they can build a cheap budget in quotation marks, and I say that budget in quotation marks really fucking with an exclamation mark because it's never really budget friendly. 1,000 horsepower, budget friendly, cheap fucking street car. You can actually tell them, bro, you're crazy. It's gonna cost you a lot more. Because you now know the breakdown of the cost. And we're talking about something, remember, something that you could drive, something that is dependable, something that you could fucking take out on the weekends, that you could drive to work, that you can have some fun, that every person you give a ride to, you could be on max boost. Like, bro, fucking having a great time, having a blast. This is what we're talking about here, right? And so you already know how much it's gonna run you. And so I encourage you, share this episode with one of your boys who's looking to build a badass street car so they can see like, holy shit, fuck, that's a lot of money. Because there are more chances than none. Most of us don't even realize what we're getting into until we're deep fucking covered in mud, way over our heads, man. Because it happened to me. Yo, I'm driving the freaking checkered flag deep into the ground, and I'm calling out all the motorsport enthusiasts out there who want to improve their situation. Let's break free from all the shit that's been holding us back, and let's prove to the world that we're some badass motherfuckers. Those of you who made it to the end of the episode, I want to say that you got yourself a win, man. And I genuinely appreciate you for investing your valuable time into the Live Wide Open podcast. This movement is called Live Your Life Wide Open, and helping others improve is the mission that God has tasked us with. We are driven individuals. We are working on breaking the fucking stereotype, and we're working on becoming the best that we can be. Join me on this journey while we help as many motorsport enthusiasts as possible to create the best lives that we can imagine. Man, and if you haven't subscribed yet by any chance, go ahead and smash that button so you never miss another episode. You can follow me on my Instagram. My handle is WideOpenRandy. And if you felt any connection to today's message, I sincerely ask you, bro, please go ahead and share that shit on your stories, because those are the actions that really help more people see and hear about this podcast. And ultimately, those are the actions that really help us spread the message. I'll catch up with you guys on the next episode. But till then, live your life wide open, my friends. Peace.